All right, so I don't know if you guys like buffing, but I know that I do not like buffing cars out. So I try to get the cleanest job possible in the spray booth. But when it's time to buff, I want to get every little thing that I can to make it that much faster and that much better of a job. So I picked up a new kit from the KOVAX. They make a nice kit for nibbing out nibs with the blocks and all the sandpapers that you're going to need to use to get a nice finish. So I'm going to show you guys that now that I ordered myself a new one, what's in it and how nice it really works to get the nibs blocked out. All right, so here's my buffing cart. You guys know I use a cart. That's why I'm mobile and I can get over to wherever I want to go. But I wanted to show you guys this here kit that they make. This is the toll cut starter kit. And this one here comes with everything that you need to get nibs and stuff sanded out. So in the professional environment, we do not sand full panels out. We just nib the area. That way we can just move through the panel and we do not have a lot of dirt in our job. So this is the setup that you get. And the nice thing about this one here is they give you the blocks. So these are very, very hard rubber, which lets you be able to block down that dirt nib without leaving a mountain in it. That's key to getting your nibs down. You want to get them flat and you don't want a mountain because you will see that. So they give you here this here small square one. Then they give you a round one, which will work nicely in some type of body lines. And they give you this longer one here, which is really nice. If you were to get a run on something, you could really block it down and get that run out. So this here kit is really nice because they give you an array of different sandpapers, all the way from 800 up to, I think it is almost like a 2500 grit, or 3000 even this one comes with. So this is why I really like this kit, and that I ordered a new one. It was time to show you guys what I like to use. And we'll do a couple nibs on this here job. That way I can show you guys how nice that this works. And it's just a nice product because you do not have to wet sand it. You can dry sand with this or wet sand. That's what I really like, because I don't like wet sanding too much. So, all right, so this here is the door that we did. And this is a very clean job, but there is a nib in this one. There was one big piece of dirt that ended up coming on this one, and we're gonna go ahead and hit that. So there it is. We've got a nice sized piece of dirt in the panel. I'm not sure if you guys can see it, but it's right there. That was pretty much the biggest piece that I seen, and I thought this would be a good one to show you guys. So when you have a big dirt nib like that, you want to get it blocked down with something coarse. That way you do not leave a dome in this. If you try to hit this with something really fine, you're gonna leave a dome in this and you're not gonna be able to get it down, knocked down flat. So that's where these here blocks really come in handy, because you guys can see that that nib's right there, and now this will be a block, almost like you're doing body work. You're gonna block it and you're gonna get it cut down and be able to plane that off nicely. So I'm hoping you guys can see the dirt. So what we'll do is we're gonna hit this with something coarse, being that this is a bigger dirt nib. And what I like to do when I'm doing my buffing is feel the panel. A lot of times you won't see the dirt, but you can feel the dirt. So I'll rub my hand over the panel lightly. That way I can feel if there's any dirt in this panel. And that's gonna give you a nicer way. Sometimes you can't see with certain lighting, or you're in an outside environment with the sun, and if you rub your hand over it, you're gonna be able to feel the dirt. So we do have another little one right there, and then we have this one right there below it. So let's go ahead and open up our box and see what grit we want to use. So I think I want to use the 1200, which is an orange. So let's go ahead and open these up. That's the 1500. There's the 2000. And let's get the orange one out. So here we are, we got the orange. And what's nice is they're already cut. That way you can just stick them right on your pad and get it blocked out. So let me change this one out. I was using the 2000, and now we'll switch it out and I'll show you guys how it works. All right, so you could just take your sandpaper off, and I'll tell you what, I've been reusing this stuff because it's a very, very well-made film. It's almost like a plastic film, so they last. So I just stick them right back on there. That way I can reuse them. And then you just go ahead and pull them off. You got a sticky back on them. Everything is labeled on the back, what grit you have. That way you know what you're doing. And then you just go ahead and stick it right on your block, almost like you're doing body work. Because all this stuff is similar, the body work as well as sanding down a nib. you're going to want to block it and get it flat. So now that we have our 1200 on here, I'll show you guys how nice this works, especially dry sanding. Because when you're sanding something dry, it's nice because you can actually see the nib. Usually you'd have to dry this, look at it to see it. But with this being actually dry, you're able to see the dirt nib in it. And you guys see that's the dirt nib right there. It's a pretty decent sized nib. I wasn't in love with that when I seen it. So now you guys see it's hitting the area as the nib and around it. But when we hit this with the block, it's going to go ahead and let this get sanded down nice and flat, being we started out with a 1200 grit. So I like hitting the spots. That way I don't have a lot of areas to block. I don't want to have to block a lot and have to buff a lot. I want to keep it minimal because these panels are flat. They have the right texture for the OEM. This is a mini, so these are a little slicker than normal. And now that we've sanded that with the 1200, we'll cut it down because this is a smaller nib. You're not going to need to hit this with the 12. We can hit this with the 2000 or the 1500 and get it blocked out. So you guys see now the nib is now flat. It's gone. There's no sign of a nib in it, and that's why this really works nice, being it's hard. All right, so what I'm going to do is put this back on here. That way we can use it again. And I'm going to go ahead and grab off the one that I had on here earlier, put it back on. That way we can sand over the spot that we had hit with the 12, as well as go over this here one that we need to hit that's a little bit smaller. So now we'll block it again with this here grit to refine it. And then we'll hit our smaller nib above that right here and get that one blocked down. And it's nice because it really does block it out. And I like to be able to do it dry. That way I can see what I'm doing and I don't have to waste a lot of time cleaning off the panel, wetting it, and looking at it. So we've got our two nibs sanded out. We'll go ahead and buff them up real quick and see what we get. And as I was looking, I seen one more. So there's always one that's going to sneak up on you once you get polished, and then you got to go back and hit it. So check over them good. That's the worst thing. Once you get everything refined, the panel's clean, and you're always at the last second wiping it off for the final wipe, and then you see one more nib. So I like to really go over them well. That way I don't have to go back and double track. And now we hit that one. So let's go ahead and get these polished up. You guys know I like to start out with the smaller buffer with the compounds. I don't take a big buffer on these when I'm hitting these areas, because the bigger you hit this area, the more you're gonna have to refine it, because those compounds will scratch the panel, being this is a fresh paint job. This has never had a towel run on it. So once you have a paint job fresh out of the booth without anything that's ever touched it, it's very hard to get it back to that stage because this has no scratches in it. So I try to keep it as minimal as possible, especially with the compounds. And then usually I'll go into a bigger pad for my fine polishes. So we'll hit this with the mini buffer, and then we'll move into our bigger pad for the polish. All right, so we've got our small buffer, and we're gonna be using the 3M polish. You guys see I have it in a ketchup bottle. These are what I like to use when I'm buffing. I don't like to have them big bulky containers. These are nice to have, and you guys know we use all the RCP products here as well in the detail department, as well as getting some of these things finally polished up. So check them out on the website. You guys will see that in the description below. And that polish is out now, the one that was their new featured product, and they got that on the website. So let's go ahead and hit this and get this polished up. All right, now we'll go ahead and get off that compound. You want to make sure that when you're doing the 3-step process or whatever process you're doing, you want to clean off the residual of the actual compound. That way you do not contaminate your next pad, because you're moving into a finer product and you do not want to have that coarse compound in your pad, because you are going to be scratching it. So you're going to be defeating the purpose if you do not clean off all the rest of the compound, unless you're using a 1-step. Like I said, you can change the pads, but you still use the same polish, and that way you do not have to worry about changing out anything and cleaning stuff. You just use different pads, but use the same compound. So now that we've got that off, we'll move into our polish, and we're still going to be using the small buffing pad, but we're going to go into the black one now. So go ahead and switch out, and this time we're going to be using the same thing, step 2 from 3M in the ketchup bottle. Put it on your spot. All right, same thing now. Wipe it off, get that polish off, because we are going to be moving into one final step. That's going to be step 3 from 3M with the blue pad. So get off the black polish. That way you do not have any contaminations on your pad. That's a big deal when you're buffing cars out. So now that we've got that one finally cleaned off, we'll go ahead and hit it with our final step, and then I'll show you guys how nice this panel looks. But that product there, that KOVAX block set, really nice, planes them off, gets the dirt knocked down with no mountains, and it's nice having that film that they used because it really works well. You can actually reuse it. So you guys see it already looks good before we hit it with our blue, but we're going to do our final step, and that's when I'm going to use my bigger pad on it. So let's go ahead and hit it with that. All right, so now you're going to want to make sure you have a brand new microfiber on your last stage. That way you do not scratch anything, because if you have anything in that towel, you're going to be defeating the purpose by getting that thing all final polished. So once we get it wiped down, I like to double check it with a sunlight. That way you can actually see if you have any hologramming going on or any scratches left over that you'll have to hit again. So wipe it down, clean microfiber, and then hit it with your sunlight. That way you can see how it's going to look out in the sun. And then you can check to see if you need to repolish it and get it repolished. So you guys know the spots were right there. Everything looks good. We don't have any hologramming. We got a little polish left on. But this is the way to check it inside the shop to see if you have to refine it and get it done, because nobody likes to get these cars all buffed out, cleaned up, washed up, and then they go outside in the parking lot and get hot, and then that oil from the compounds, because they all have them in them no matter what they tell you, comes off from the heat, and then you got to bring it back in and polish it. So get your sunlight out, check it really good, and now you guys can see that it is done. So definitely another way of checking it with your light, and that's what the high-end detail guys do. They always check it with the light to make sure that they're good and all buffed out. So that's the way we do it, and I'll show you guys a close-up how it looks with it de-nibbed. All right, so it was right around that area. It's hard for me to show you guys this kind of stuff, but it's perfectly gone, and there's no sign of it being we use that hard block. So that's why I really like that setup that they make, because it has that hard, very, very hard type of a urethane, some type of a plastic that they use for that, and it really works well. So there's the other spot we did. And now you guys can see here that we do not have any leftover scratches that we need to handle. And I really like checking them with the light at the end. That way I can see if I'm fully polished. So you guys see here, it looks good. But I wanted to show you guys this here setup, because they got everything you need to get your nibs sanded out quick and easy. And you guys know I'm not a fan of buffing, but I like to have every little thing that I can get my hands on to make it better. And this here kit is really nice because you can dry sand it as well as wet sand it. So I'll leave everything in the description below. Pick one up, and we'll see you guys on the next one.